All right, welcome to CurioFlux. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to tear down all those get-rich-quick posters you see everywhere and actually look at the hard science behind wealth. We're going to deconstruct the myths we've all been sold and then piece together what the research really says about how you build a fortune.
So, let's just start with this big question. What if everything we've been told about getting rich isn't the whole story? The classic advice, work hard, be the most talented person in the room, trade smart. What if that's just a tiny, tiny piece of the puzzle? And what if the real things that drive wealth are kind of hidden in plain sight, backed up by tons of research? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into.
Okay, first things first, let's just acknowledge a universal truth. The desire to, make more money, to increase our wealth, it's a really powerful human motivation, right? And deep down, the way we think about money and about wealthy people, that directly shapes how we actually try to earn it. It's like this invisible force pulling the strings on our financial choices, and a lot of the time, we don't even notice it's happening.
All right, first up, let's tackle a really big one, the whole myth of pure meritocracy. I mean, we all love that story, don't we? That the best and brightest always rise to the top. But is that really how it works when we're talking about extreme wealth? Let's find out.
So, the myth goes something like this. The most talented people get the richest. It's the simple, clean equation, right? Talent plus a ton of effort equals wealth. And it's a super appealing idea. I get it. It feels fair. It paints this picture of a world where the most skilled, the smartest, the hardest working people get what they deserve. But, and this is a big but, the data tells a completely different story.
Okay, check this out. This is where that whole talent equals wealth story really starts to crumble. What you're looking at here is a massive disconnect. Over on the left, you've got talent distribution. Things like intelligence, skill, they follow a normal distribution, a bell curve. Most people are kind of average, with just a few at the super low and super high ends. But then look at the right. That's wealth distribution. It's a totally different beast. It follows what's called a power law. A teeny tiny number of people hold a gigantic amount of the wealth. Think of the Pareto 80-20 rule, but on steroids. Now, if talent was the main driver of wealth, these two graphs should look pretty much the same, but they don't. I mean, they're not even in the same ballpark.
So what does this tell us? Well, scientists have actually built computer models to figure out this mismatch, and what they found is kind of mind-blowing. The fact is, extreme success is often just mediocre talent plus extraordinary luck. The most successful people are almost never the most talented ones. The simulations show that it's usually someone with, pretty average talent who just happens to get hit by a lightning bolt of good luck, a whole series of fortunate events. Now, don't get me wrong, talent is crucial. You have to be in the game to win it. But luck is the wild card that explains those totally off-the-charts outcomes.
Okay, so if it's not all about talent, what about skill in the market? Let's move on to our next big myth. This one's all about investing, and that tempting idea that if you're smart enough, you can consistently beat the stock market.
The legendary investor Benjamin Graham said it perfectly decades ago. He said the investor's chief problem, and even his worst enemy, is likely to be himself. Think about that. The biggest thing stopping you from building wealth isn't some secret Wall Street code or a lack of information. Nope, it's you. It's us. Our own brains are pretty much hardwired to work against us.
And if you need proof, just look at this number, 92%. That is the percentage of professional fund managers, we're talking the people who get paid the big bucks to do this all day, who failed to beat a simple S&P 500 index fund over 15 years. Let that sink in. Over 9 out of 10 professionals couldn't do it. So if the pros, with all their resources and research, can't beat the market, what chance do the rest of us really have?
So what's going on here? Well, the main culprit, it turns out, is excessive trading. Researchers dug into thousands and thousands of regular people's brokerage accounts and found a direct link. The households that traded the most, they earned the absolute lowest returns, period. Every time you trade, you're getting hit with costs, right? Fees, spreads. But the bigger problem is that most of that trading is driven by emotion, not a sound strategy. And here's the science behind why we do that. It boils down to a cognitive bias called loss aversion. Basically, the psychological pain of losing money is about twice as powerful as the pleasure you get from gaining the same amount. Our brains are literally wired to hate losing, and that intense fear triggers our most primitive instincts, fight or flight. It's what causes us to panic and sell when the market is low, and then get FOMO and buy when prices are at their peak. It's the absolute perfect recipe for losing money.
Okay, so we've busted a couple of big myths. Extreme talent isn't the secret sauce, And trying to be a day trading genius is probably a losing game. So, what actually works? What are the real engines of wealth? Let's dive into the forces that are often overlooked but are way more powerful.
It really comes down to three kind of hidden engines. First, you've got the slow, quiet magic of long-term compounding. Second, something you might not expect, the incredible power of your social networks. And third, what sociologists call the snowball of cumulative advantage.
So let's talk compounding first. And the data here is genuinely surprising. There was this huge study that looked at 150 years of returns across 16 different countries. And what they found was, wow, the long-term real return on housing, yeah, like your boring old house, was about 7% a year. And get this, that's almost identical to the long-term return on stocks. Now, stocks were way more of a roller coaster ride, of course, but this just shows you the incredible power of patient, steady compounding in an asset that isn't flashy, but that a lot of us already own.
All right, next up is an asset that you won't find on any financial statement: social capital. What is that? It's basically the value that comes from your network of relationships. Your friends, your family, your coworkers. It's all about connections, trust, and this idea of I'll help you, you help me. And that network can be incredibly productive for reaching your goals, including your financial ones.
And if you're thinking, oh, that sounds a little soft and fuzzy, check out this data. A really groundbreaking study found that making just one more friend in high school has a direct causal effect on how much you earn as an adult. So how big is the effect? We're talking a 7 to 14% increase in your adult earnings. To put that in perspective, that's basically the same financial return you'd get from an entire extra year of school. Yeah, your friends are quite literally an economic asset.
And the third hidden engine is something called the Matthew effect. It's this really powerful idea from sociology, and it's all about cumulative advantage. Put simply, success breeds more success. It's a snowball effect. If you start with a small advantage, whether that's from luck or skill or whatever, it tends to lead to more resources, more recognition, and more opportunities. And guess what? Those things lead to even more success. The snowball just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
And the name, the Matthew effect, actually comes from this verse in the Bible. For to him who has will more be given. It's a pretty stark way of describing how momentum works in life, right? The rich get richer, and it's not just because they have more cash to throw around. It's because the entire system of success often works like a positive feedback loop.
Okay, so we've looked at the science, we've broken down the mechanics of how wealth is actually built, but that leaves us with maybe the most important question of all. Why? Why are we even doing this? Let's pivot from the how to the why.
I mean, after all these charts, all this data, it's really worth taking a step back and asking ourselves, so what's the point of all this? Is the goal really just to watch a number in our bank account go up and up and up?
There's this quote I absolutely love. It goes, "A healthy, fit body, a calm mind, and a home full of love." It's such a powerful, holistic definition of what being rich really means, and it has absolutely nothing to do with dollars and cents, right? True wealth is about your health, your peace of mind, your relationships. These are the things money is supposed to be a tool for, but so often we end up sacrificing them in the chase for more money.
And really, that's the ultimate point. The whole goal isn't just to make more money, it's to use money as a tool to live a better life. It's an incredibly powerful tool for sure, but it's still just a tool. The real objective isn't about who can collect the most tools in their shed, it's about using the tools you have to build a life that actually makes you happy, a life that's meaningful to you.
So, we'll leave you with this one final thought to chew on. What does being rich truly mean to you? I mean, really, once you strip away all the numbers, all the keeping up with the Joneses, what does a genuinely rich life look like for you? Because honestly, the answer to that question, that's the only financial plan that truly matters. Thanks for joining us.